Breaking: Red Heifers, secretly sacrificed in Jerusalem today. Some people believe that cows from Texas hold the key to fulfilling ancient biblical prophecy, which is why Israel has imported them. Reports indicate that a large altar is being constructed in Jerusalem for a ceremony believed to date back to the time of Moses, Musa. These events, deeply rooted in religious significance, are drawing global attention. The Temple Institute's efforts to fulfill biblical prophecy have sparked political tension in the West Bank, currently under Israeli control. It is believed that these red heifers are essential for rebuilding the Third Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. However, many Muslims, including Palestinians, view the heifers as symbols of offense. The proposed site for this temple, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City, also houses the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock Shrine, two of Islam's holiest places. Many Islamic nations see the potential cow sacrifices and temple construction as part of Israel's broader occupation of Jerusalem, which they interpret as undermining Palestinian sovereignty. In retaliation for what they consider Israeli occupation, Hamas launched an attack on Gaza on October 7, 2023, resulting in the deaths of around 33,000 people, many of them women and children. Jewish tradition states that before the Third Temple can be rebuilt, a perfectly red heifer must be sacrificed for ritual purification. Radical Jewish groups, anticipating the coming of the Messiah, strongly support the temple's construction. The arrival of the red heifers caught the attention of various Palestinian factions. During a recent speech marking the 100th anniversary of a massacre in Gaza, a Hamas spokesperson linked the import of these cows to the ongoing violence. The cows were transported from Texas to the West Bank by Yitzhak Mamo, who resides in the Uvne neighborhood of Jerusalem. To bypass export regulations, the red heifers, categorized as pets, are set to be sacrificed on a large white altar in Jerusalem. What is the red heifer sacrifice? According to Jewish tradition, the red heifer is a cow that is entirely red, without blemishes or markings, and has never been used for labor. This specific breed is required for the purification ritual described in the Hebrew Bible. The Old Testament details the red heifer sacrifice as part of Jewish custom, explaining that the ashes of a blemish-free red heifer were used in ceremonies to purify individuals. Ashes were traditionally used in Jewish rituals to purify individuals from impurities, particularly those who had come into contact with a dead body. In Jewish tradition, the red heifer symbolizes holiness and the restoration of ritual purity. Before participating in specific religious activities, such as entering the temple in Jerusalem or taking part in sacred events, individuals were required to undergo this purification process. Many Israelites believe that the preparation and sacrifice of a red heifer are crucial steps toward rebuilding the Third Temple in Jerusalem, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque currently stands. Islamic perspective: what do Muslims believe? The second and longest chapter of the Quran is called Al-Baqarah, Arabic, El-Baqarah, meaning the cow or the heifer, named after the cow that God commanded to be sacrificed, as recounted in this chapter. The story is mentioned in verses 61 to 71. When Moses said to his people, "Indeed, God commands you to slaughter a cow," they said, "Are you making fun of us?" He replied, "I seek refuge in God from being among the ignorant." They said, "Ask your Lord to make clear to us what kind of cow it should be." Moses replied, "God says it is a cow neither too old nor too young, but in between. Now do as you are commanded." They said, "Ask your Lord to show us what color it should be." Moses replied, "God says it is a yellow cow, bright in color, pleasing to those who see it." They said, "Ask your Lord to clarify for us which cow exactly, for to us all cows are alike, and if God wills, we will be guided." Moses replied, "God says it is a cow that has never been yoked to plow the land or irrigate the crops, free from any blemish." They said, "Now you have brought the truth." So they slaughtered the cow, though they nearly did not. Quran, Surah 2, Ayah 61 to 71, translation by Pickthall. What is the Third Temple of Solomon? According to Jewish tradition, as well as accounts mentioned in the Quran, King Solomon built a temple dedicated to the worship of God around 1000 BC. This first Temple of Solomon was constructed after King David captured Jerusalem and made it the capital. However, in 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, invaded Jerusalem and destroyed the temple. Later, in 37 BC, King Herod expanded the Temple Mount and rebuilt the temple with the people's approval, creating the Second Temple of Solomon. This temple was destroyed in 70 AD by the Roman general Titus during the Roman Empire, around the time when Jesus lived in Jerusalem. Since then, the temple has not been rebuilt. Some radical Jewish groups believe that the construction of the Third Temple is necessary for the arrival of the Messiah, who they believe will help them rule the world. Christian perspective. What does the Bible say? In the book of Numbers, the Bible provides specific instructions for the sacrifice of the red heifer and the use of its ashes in purification rituals. In Christian theology, this ritual is often seen as a foreshadowing of the ultimate purification achieved through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Several prophecies in the Hebrew Bible, particularly in the books of Ezekiel and Daniel, speak of the rebuilding of the temple and its role in the end times. The Bible states that God commanded, "Speak to the children of Israel, that they bring you a red heifer without blemish, one that has no defect and has never been yoked." The heifer would then be given to a priest, who would sacrifice it and burn it with cedar, hyssop and scarlet wool. Its ashes would be mixed with water to purify anyone who had been exposed to death. The Hebrew Bible also warns that anyone who fails to undergo this purification shall be cut off from the congregation because they have defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. Many Christians interpret these prophecies symbolically, believing that the Third Temple is a representation of the spiritual dwelling of God within believers. The Temple Institute. This movement gained momentum in the US thanks to Rabbi Chaim Richman, who moved from Massachusetts to Israel in 1982 to support efforts to rebuild the temple. In 1984, Rabbi Israel Ariel, a right-wing activist, founded the Temple Institute and appointed Richman as its international director in 1989. Richman quickly became a key figure in efforts to bring pure red heifers to Israel. Richman is also the author of The Mystery of the Red Heifer, Divine Promise of Purity, a book on the subject. While he and other Temple Institute activists have been vague about what would happen to the Al-Aqsa Mosque once the biblical rituals are ready, many speculate that the mosque could be in danger. According to Jewish tradition, the Ark of the Covenant, housed in the Holy of Holies, is believed to be located on the Temple Mount. Because of this, the Rabbinate of Israel declared in 1921 that Orthodox Jews should not enter the area to avoid accidentally defiling this sacred space. Richman and the Temple Institute remain focused on preparing the necessary purification potion. The reconstruction of the ancient temple could begin once the priests are purified, with even a small amount of this potion before approaching the sacred site. The search for the red heifer. Finding the perfect red heifer for the sacrifice has been a long and difficult journey in the Middle East. Each time Rabbi Richman thought he had found one, the cow developed disqualifying hairs of the wrong color before reaching the proper age for sacrifice. After becoming the international director of the Temple Institute in 1989, Richman turned his attention to importing cattle from the United States, establishing relationships with evangelical churches in the American South who were equally passionate about rebuilding the temple, though for their own theological reasons. In the 1990s, plans were set in motion to create a herd of American Red Angus cattle in Israel, with financial backing from New York hedge fund billionaire Henry Sweetser. Despite the generous funding, the search for the perfect red heifer remained unsuccessful. In 2018, the Temple Institute attempted to import embryos from Nebraska, but once again, black and white hairs appeared on the calves, disqualifying them. The second attempt. In 2022, The Temple Institute enlisted the help of Byron Stinson, a Texas trucking company owner and evangelical Christian with a strong interest in the end times. Stinson was eager to assist and reached out to his Christian rancher friends. Soon he claimed to have found not just one, but 21 pure red calves. His efforts were driven by dispensationalism, a branch of evangelical Christianity that believes Israel will play a pivotal role in the rapture. Many evangelical megachurches in Texas share a deep connection with Israel, organizing end-times-themed trips to the Holy Land, where participants visit key biblical sites and learn about the coming apocalyptic events. Despite extensive coverage in Israel and the Muslim world, major English-language news outlets have largely ignored this story. To find more information, one might need to turn to local Texas media, such as the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, rather than mainstream outlets like the New York Times. The significance in Islam Hamas takes the issue of the Red Heifer seriously, because the second chapter of the Quran, Al-Baqarah, which means the cow, holds great religious significance. This chapter includes a story that references the Jewish practice of cow sacrifice, but from an Islamic perspective, the heifer is described as yellow, not red. Since Moses is regarded as a prophet in Islam, the command he gave for this sacrifice is considered to be the word of Allah. It's no surprise that Hamas would treat this ritual with importance, as Muslims are taught to believe in the supernatural, even if the exact nature of its effects isn't entirely clear. The story of the cow from Al-Baqarah has spread widely across the Muslim world, where memorization of the Quran is a fundamental part of education. In a religious context that includes beliefs in jinns, talking trees, and flying horses, a magic cow may seem to fit naturally into the broader narrative, especially when it is perceived as benefiting the Jewish people. The purpose of the Red Heifer sacrifice is to purify those who have come into contact with death. Over time, Jewish scholars and rabbis in Talmudic law expanded upon the original rules for this ritual. The Mishnah Para, a Talmudic text, contains 12 chapters that outline increasingly complex regulations for the preparation of the purifying mixture. For instance, chapter 5 of the Mishnah specifies that everyone is eligible to prepare the mixture except for a deaf, mute, an imbecile, and a minor. However, Rabbi Judah adds that while a minor may be acceptable, neither a woman nor a hermaphrodite is permitted to perform this task. A fascinating commentary from the 11th century reflects on King Solomon's struggle to fully comprehend the intricacies of this ritual, despite his renowned wisdom. The heifer, a symbol of purity and atonement, must be completely red, without a single hair of another color, and it must be between 2 and 3 years old. These details, while seemingly small, hold deep spiritual significance and offer insight into the importance of maintaining ancient traditions with precision. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content.